back. A local author travels to the other end of the globe to research his novels set in an international crime world, and his face might look familiar. In today's Positive Vibes, we talked to Dana Haynes about his books, his job as the manager of a newspaper, and about those 3 interesting years when he served as spokesman for the mayor of Portland. In his day job, Dana Haynes is the managing editor of the Portland Tribune and the Washington County Times. But before and after, his brain is often occupied with an international crime world.
The most recent book, I was doing some research on the International Criminal Court at The Hague, and I discovered they had lawyers and judges and clerks and researchers, but they don't have cops. There's no law enforcement arm for the International Criminal Court.
And that's how St. Nicholas Salvage and Wrecking came to be, about a largely illegal bounty hunting operation based in Cyprus. These are some pictures from Haynes' trip there to research his novel. Decades earlier, the Pacific Northwest native had his first book published while he was a student at Clackamas Community College.
The editor there saw it and said, "This is a sow's ear, but I think I can make it into a good book," and she bought that one.
But knowing he had to make a living, Haynes took a job out of college managing the West Lynn Tidings newspaper. He still kept writing novels and picked up several awards along the way while working in several newsrooms. In 2013, Haynes accepted a role as spokesman for Portland Mayor Charlie Haynes, and the next 3 years of his life were interesting, to say the least.
There's a perception that City Hall is dysfunctional, but the truth is it's much, much worse than people think. It's dysfunction on steroids. And so there were times when it was kind of disheartening, and there were other times it was hilarious. We would stand around the coffee urn and just break out in laughing because it's a kind of a lunatic bin.
Haynes was asked to resign in 2016, which gave him some free time to work on his latest novel and eventually return to his other passion, journalism.
Now that I'm in the newsroom covering City Hall, I can see that it's made me a much better editor because I understand how stuff works. I understand the levers and what happened when you pull them.
Haynes writes every day in longhand, no less, currently working on a sequel to a sequel. While he's had much success, he says there's been some humility along the way as well.
I used to keep rejection slips, but it's a small apartment. I can't keep that many.
Well, Haynes is also the author featured in this week's Writer's Block podcast. To hear that extended interview and find out more about his books, just go to coin.com. You can also find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or Spotify.
Yeah, I remember covering Dana when he was the spokesperson for Mayor Haynes, and he was always a straight shooter.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd tell us what he could tell us, and he wouldn't, but he'd tell us why.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I always appreciated him when he was in that role.
Yeah, no, I loved how honest he was about that interesting time, because that would be kind of a wild ride. I mean, he said, you know, I watched West Wing, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to be a speechwriter, and I think it was interesting for him.
Oh,
so,
no doubt about it. Yeah, well, I'll have to read one of his books. I haven't done it.
Yeah, they're pretty good.